300 kilometers further on, the bizarre rock formations of the northern slopes of the Sewah Depression, which runs parallel to the Mediterranean 80 kilometers from east to west. Like the other Egyptian oases in the Libyan desert, this depression was eroded out of the earth by the wind in the course of thousands of years. Hundreds of springs created a fertile oasis in this impassable terrain of rock and sand. The outskirts of Sewah. The main street. Behind it, Shali, the old town of Sewah. Over 100 years ago, people began to desert the old town. The houses had become overcrowded, the narrow alleys too dark, because buildings were growing higher and higher. Built of loam and palm timber, they had 5, 6, and even 8 floors and were joined together by galleries. Shali was a fortress. The town was encircled by a wall to protect it against the plundering Bedouins from the surrounding desert. Few people live in Shali now. In 1985, the year in which the asphalt road was finished, which links Sewah with the outside world, there were several days of heavy rainfall. The lone brick houses collapsed and hundreds of families were made homeless. The oasis was settled over 3,000 years ago. The remains of a pharaonic temple in a grove of date palms. It was destroyed by an earthquake. The nearby hillside town of Agurmi is even older than Shali. The minaret of the ancient mosque survived the great rains, and so did the remains of a temple built in 700 BC for the oracle of the god Amun. If you climb up the scree to the Amun temple at dawn, you can watch the sunrise above Lake Agurmi. Alexander the Great, after being crowned pharaoh in Memphis, traveled to Sewah. Legend has it that he and his retinue were stranded in the desert without water. 2 ravens came and showed them the way to Sewah. The oracle priest welcomed Alexander as the son of 2 gods who had become one, Amun, Zeus. The oracle of Sewah had become more important than the old oracles, including the oracle at Delphi. In antiquity, Sewah was called the land of palms, and today over 300,000 date palms still guarantee the prosperity of the oasis. Sewah also has some 60,000 olive trees. We have accompanied old Ahmed to inspect his olive grove at Lake Agurmi. Ahmed is the head of one of the biggest clans in Sewah. Over 2,000 people acknowledge him as their leader. Sheikh Ahmed's ancestors came from Tripolitania, present-day Libya. The inhabitants of Sewah speak their own language, a Berber dialect. Arabic is their second acquired language. The spring, used by Sheikh Ahmed to irrigate his garden, belongs to him and 4 other families. Melons, grapes, pomegranates and figs are harvested in summer. Now, in October, the citrus fruits are ripening. The date harvest lasts until December. Paid labourers from the Nile Valley and Upper Egypt come for the olive and date harvest. There are not enough local labourers to gather in the fruit. The landowners of Siewa, who once kept slaves, do not perform heavy work. During breaks from work, tea is drunk, as sweet and as strong as possible.
أما الحجة يطلع كواي
كيف أنا سد مثل سعيد هاي أودي هديك دام لا حار
هتشوف فنجانك
الجنة
معزم مش هيطلع
لا حيزات
سعيدي تلف
لا هو بيزبط هذا بيزبط على كل لحم
تعال جامع
شعاون الشاهي كيف نكتب
استعبط نوقع عليك
سوق لا وليك السوق
Sheikh Ahmed's house. He's quite happy to let us film an old basket maker, but he will not allow us to film a female member of his household, veiled or unveiled. Large baskets, woven from palm stalks, are still used to transport dates and olives. Every family makes their own. This blind man is a respected member of Sheikh Ahmed's clan. He looks almost like a black African. The people of Siewa are a mixture of Berbers and the descendants of black slaves. Sheikh Ahmed is almost 80 years old. He is a pure Berber with light grey eyes. The sources of wealth are quite literally the springs. In antiquity, there were more than 1,000. Today, there are only 200 places where water rises from the depths of the earth, where it's been trapped for over 30,000 years. Water rights play an important role. Everything relating to them has been chronicled for centuries. One spring is generally owned by several garden owners. A person of their trust sees that the springs are used according to an agreed schedule, although there's no danger of them drying up. One problem, however, is when excess water flows out of the gardens, for the Siewa depression is below sea level, and the water with its high mineral content evaporates in the lakes, creating swamps with a pungent smell of ammonia. Siewa, the market on Friday. This is Sunday for the Muslims, and it's almost time for midday prayers. It's a busy market, but quite unlike other Oriental bazaars with their all-pervading aroma of herbs and spices. The carro, drawn by a donkey, is the main means of transport, but bus and lorry are of course used for longer journeys. Up to the Second World War, Siwa was a meeting place for the Trans-Sahara caravans and people of many different colours and tongues. Only men shop here. Siwa's women are not even allowed to go to the market. Nowhere else in the Islamic world are women so isolated. Fruit and vegetables come from Alexandria. Everyone who has a garden in Siwa cultivates it only for their own household needs. The days of the caravans are past. A lorry takes 5 hours to reach the coast. A caravan took a whole week. Camels are now kept as animals for slaughter. Siwa was once a well-known stopping place for pilgrims. Today, they travel by plane. Over 300 years ago, a very pious man, Sidi Suleiman, lived in Siwa.